Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for this virtual OLA session. My name is Allison Hayes, and I'll be moderating the session. And this session is called The 7 Things You Must Do Right Now for the Best Videos Ever. And with us today is Aaron Pence, who is the Computer Center Training Manager at Pioneer Library System, and Chris Hines, who's the STEAM Specialist for the Pioneer Library System. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to them.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As Allison was so kind to say, my name is Aaron.
And I'm Chris.
And we are here to talk to you about the 7 things you must do right now for the best videos ever.
And you have to say it like that. It's a rule.
You do. Otherwise, it's not the best things. It's just some normal things. There's a bunch of different tips and tricks we want to show you that we've kind of learned over the course of the last year about things that have been successful for us, things that haven't been successful for us. Before we get started doing those things, there are a few things we should discuss that you're not going to hear from us today. One of them is that we are the right people for you to listen to, because we're not. We have no real background in film. Chris did some stage stuff back in the 40s when he was in high school. And otherwise, we're tech guys. We help people with computers and we teach computer classes. We had a little bit of camera equipment laying around from some other projects we've done. Chris in particular has taught a bunch of movie making classes for kids over the course of the last few years. So it made sense for us to get roped into doing these kinds of things. But this exact same thing as you. In March of last year, our world got turned upside down, and we went from guys who went out in the community and taught classes in the library and explained computers to people to folks who were doing digital content all of the time. So it's a big part of this is lessons we've learned over the course of the last year, but don't run away from this thinking we're some kind of magic film geniuses or something. We're just like you. We're library staff who got thrown into a fire and had to do some things the hard way.
We're also not going to talk a whole lot about why you should be making videos. There are lots of different reasons that you should make videos, ranging from sort of your, of course, big picture, they support your library's mission, whatever your library's mission is. That's why Pioneer decided to do these things. We believe that they support our mission. But there are other reasons for doing it, ranging, especially during the pandemic, to demonstrating that you do stuff when the library is closed, when your customers can't see you. You now have this tangible, deliverable product. And that is a valuable reason for doing videos. And that is a perfectly legitimate reason why you might make videos beyond just, oh, well, it checks this box on our mission statement or that sort of thing. Another reason you might do videos is employee development, right? One of the reasons we were very interested in doing this particular presentation is we are currently using a whole set of equipment that we're relatively new to, and we wanted some practice doing it in front of what we hope is a friendly audience, right? Please. So at any rate, there are lots of different reasons why you make videos. I made videos predominantly because he told me to.
I don't know what you're talking about. And I on his point about employee development, I'm also a manager. So for those of you out there who are managing people, it's an important outlet to let your staff do this stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but the employee development part of it is partly for skills, but partly also to make sure they're flexing their programming muscles and they're staying engaged with their job. One of the other things you're not going to hear from us today is what kind of content you should make. And we're going to talk exclusively about video production, but that's not the only kind of content out there. There's graphic things you can do. There's live stream video. There's asynchronous things you can do on outlets like Microsoft Teams and Discord. We're not going to talk about that stuff today. We are talking just about video production, and we couldn't tell you which one's the most successful. Some of the ideas that I think have been the best over the course of the last year are the ones that had the worst numbers and the worst outputs. Some of the things that I don't understand why they've been successful have been very successful. And I should mention, we are talking on the order of very small numbers here. Whenever we have a successful video, we're looking at multiple hundreds of views. The most popular videos in the world have multiple millions of views. Our measurements of success would be a pretty good failure by a lot of people's standards. So don't run away from this thinking you have to get this number, or you have to do this thing, or that we understand those things. It's really hard to tell, and we don't have sort of hard numbers for success in our minds.
Right. And the last thing we're not going to talk about, sort of related to not having hard numbers, is we're not going to teach you how to game the algorithms to get more views, because we don't really know. right? I mean, you can read all those search engine optimization articles and how you should name things and how you should do the 7 greatest, what's the title of this talk? I've already forgotten the title of this talk. At any rate, right? Clickbait, right? We are not clickbait experts. We are people who work at a library and try to provide a valuable service. And, you know, we sort of naively hope that by providing that valuable service, people will watch the videos. Sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. I think our most popular video in this last pandemic cycle, about the last year, has something like 8,000 views right now. It's about Minecraft. I could not have predicted. I mean, of course, people love Minecraft, but there are also a trillion videos on Minecraft out there. I don't know why that one hit. Was it the title? Was it the time of day it got put on Facebook? Was it? Nothing. Right. So we aren't really going to teach you how to game the algorithms, because if we know how to game the algorithms, we'd be gaming them and we'd have much better numbers than we do. So it turns out we don't really know how to game the algorithms. So those are the things we're not going to talk about. I think we can now start into things we are going to talk about. There
are 7 things that you must do for something or another. So the first of those 7 things that you must do for something or another is make friends. We went through the stats for our videos, of which we had quite a few. We went through when the videos were posted, what got them this view or that view, what made this happen, which presenter had more success, what time of day did the video, like Chris was saying, what time of day did the video post, what day of the week did the video post, what did it follow on our Facebook feed or whatever. And the answer we got from all of them is nothing. A big fat nothing. We have no idea what changed those things because there didn't seem to be a very good pattern. But there was one thing that we could point at every time that showed us a pretty good metric of success. Chris, if you could switch over to the video list for them. This is an example that I have picked out of Pioneer's offerings. Pioneer made hundreds of videos this last year, so you could probably find your own examples pretty easy, but this one in particular stuck out to me. We did, the South Oklahoma City Library, Southwest Oklahoma City Public Library, did a festival that was called Celebrate Cultural Heritage. They were going to offer this as an in-person festival in fall of last year, fall of 2020. As you might suspect, that fell through. What they did instead is they talked to all their presenters that they'd already spoken with, and they got them to produce videos to show people some of the things they were going to demonstrate or let them take part in at the festival. There's a series of videos here that are all of very similar quality. They are all of very similar production value. They are all of very similar everything. There's even numerous videos in here about cooking. The 6th video in the list where it says Kenyan dish. That one right there, again, it's the same as the rest of the videos I'm going to talk about. It has something like 50 or 70 or something views. It is a guy talking about cooking some stuff. It's recorded in his own kitchen. There is one on making pakoras, a couple of videos down from there. Same sort of deal. This one has a different feel to it, so it wasn't recorded with a person talking. It was actually recorded over the dish happening itself, and it's got something like 120 views. Farther down in the list, there's one where a gentleman is making empanadas. That one has almost 800 views. That video is the same, you guys. It is the same as the other ones that got made. It's a dude talking about cooking some stuff. There's nothing fancy. There's no film studio taking place. The guy doesn't have some kind of excellent microphone. He doesn't have lighting going. It's cooking in his kitchen. And there's nothing wrong with the video. The empanadas look delicious, but it's a guy talking. What is really different is that guy has a pretty serious social media following. So whenever these people who came in for us and presented their thing and made their pakoras or whatever, sent them out to other people, they got views based off of that metric. All of them have the same extra views from the Pioneer library system. That one in particular got extras because that guy had a bunch of people to send it to. Whenever we get videos sent out, the first thing that happens is Chris's mom is really nice and goes and watches
my mom
everything.
watches them, my grandma watches them, they might get their friends to watch them. It's fantastic. So I'm guaranteed 4 views right out of the gate
every time,
right?
So perfect. So sort of a sub point to make friends is make friends with Chris's mom, and she'll watch your videos for you. But other than that, the number one predictor of success we had for all these is what friends do you have that you can show these to? It's clearly beyond the scope of this video, and it's well beyond my skills to show you how to do that. If you need help making friends, I'm sure there's lots of good trainings out there.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, right. You found some unpopular dudes, but that's the trick there, is make sure that your social media presence elsewhere is robust and engaging and bringing people in, and then you will see your videos at least take off a little bit more with better numbers.
Great. All right. So Aaron has just talked to you about some sort of fuzzier things because he's a manager and managers do that sort of thing. I'm going to talk to you as the STEAM specialist here at Pioneer Library System about some concrete things. So the first concrete thing I'm going to talk about here is video equipment. And specifically, I'm talking about cameras here. So we're coming at you from this sort of impromptu studio that we put together in our catering kitchen here up on the 3rd floor at Norman Central that I simply took over when we closed for the pandemic and could do that. And so we've got some cameras that we just had sitting around here at the library for other movie production sorts of programs. Right now they're DSLRs. They're really still cameras that I've actually had to hack the firmware on them to get them to behave properly for this kind of presentation. They can be used to do video production. They're actually really not sort of the optimal for video production. So if we're talking optimal for video production, you might want to run out and grab yourself one of these little $54,000 Red Digital Cinema 8K. I put in a budget request for this, and strangely enough, I got a no on that.
I can't imagine.
I don't know why that happened. So obviously, here at the public library, we are probably not going to be buying equipment along those lines. And the great news is, if you want to produce video content, the first thing is, well, you don't actually have to have any equipment at all. I mean, you have to have a computer, but I assume if you're watching this, you or someone near you has a computer, so you can probably make that work, right? You need a computer, but you can do all kinds of fancy presentations on Prezi or Canva or Animaker. This is great if you don't really want to be in front of the camera. You don't even really have to record a voiceover if you don't want to, but most of our stuff, we do wind up recording a voiceover. Missing conspicuously from this list, as I am currently sitting here staring at a PowerPoint presentation, is that you can do just a PowerPoint and you can export that to video. And PowerPoint does have sort of handy little features, like it can pop that little, hi, it's me. I don't remember which direction I have to wave to actually be waving at my slide here. Left, right, I don't know. At any rate, PowerPoint now, if you have the Office 360 subscription, the Microsoft 360 subscription, they've rebranded it once again. Thanks, Microsoft. Anyway, if you have it, you can do videos in that, and it will do picture-in-picture, and you can do presentations and that kind of thing, and it's really quite easy to do. I'll turn off that and that. So you can make movies without having any equipment beyond what you already have. If you are interested in producing something more like this, more like either a live video or a recorded video that you're going to edit, there are a couple of cameras that here at Pioneer I've been suggesting to our branches that they buy these cameras because they have nice, easy to use interfaces. They have autofocus, they have zoom. They basically, you point them at somebody and you pull the trigger and you get a video. And so they're pretty straightforward to use. So let's introduce the first option there. This is if you are going to record external audio. That is, you're going to use a completely separate audio recording device. I'm going to talk about audio, of course, in a little bit here, but this is just your very basic entry-level Sony Handycam. I like these guys because they're really easy to hold in your hand. You don't get too much shaky cam. They do mount onto a tripod. The downside to this one is you can't plug an external microphone into it, and its onboard mic is kind of garbage. And we're going to talk about audio later on. But $230 buy-in if you've got a little grant or something along those lines. This is sort of a little more approachable than that $54,000 monster that doesn't even include the lenses, by the way, or the power supply or the storage or the, right? So you're $250,000 in and before you've shot a single thing. So probably not viable. This option 2, a little more viable. If you want to attach a microphone, you might look at the upgraded version of this camera. The big difference here, as far as I'm concerned, is it has a microphone in jack, costs over twice as much. But it has a microphone in jack. It has a little bit nicer display on it. And it does have 32 gigs of internal memory, which is handy if you're constantly losing those teeny tiny, those little itsy bitsy memory cards that they put in these things, the micro SD, which they're pretty frustrating.
He loses them all the time.
I've never lost an SD. I've lost an SD card.
Yeah, I think we were looking for one this morning.
Yes. It's thankful that this is being done over a Zoom recording and we're not trying to record onto SD cards, because with this many cameras going on in here, there's no chance that this would work in the end.
Yep.
So at any rate, those cameras are great. You really don't need to go up to the next level of camera. The next level of camera, what you get right now, is 4K video. And the big problem with shooting 4K video is then you have to edit 4K video. I don't know what your system budget looks like, but the laptops we've got here, they don't like 4K. So trying to record in 4K is just an exercise in frustration. Don't do that to yourself. Just get your standard bottom of the line HD video camera. Of course, you can also just use your cell phone if you're comfortable using personal equipment to do these library programs. You know, a lot of times we're not thrilled about that. If the library is doing the program, it should probably be on library equipment. But if you're just doing a quick one-off or something along those lines, absolutely. Your modern flagship cell phones have way better picture quality than those two cameras I just showed you, actually. So they're really nice. And of course, you have it in your pocket all the time, probably. I can't show you mine, though, because I'm doing a presentation and have very carefully not kept it in my pocket, and I don't know where it is. Right. So
Great.
At any rate, that's what I've got about cameras.
The third thing that you must do for the best videos ever is what's called B-roll, or a second camera angle. Right now, I believe you're going to be able to see on your screen soon something change. Here's the thing. Whenever you make a video, it's boring to sit and look at the same person talking the whole time. You've gotten away with it a little bit in this presentation so far. You're sort of expecting it, and you're on a Zoom, so it's kind of, we're on a Zoom at least, so it's kind of working like that. But whenever you make video content, something that's supposed to go on YouTube, something that's supposed to live there, you don't want to expect your viewer to look at the same angle, the same things, the same lighting, the same, the whole entire time. The eye gets bored. I don't know how much of that is because you are in the digital world and now it's hard to pay attention to things for a very long time, or because if you sit out and watch normal stuff, things change all the time. Things are always changing. Whenever you're making a video, however, you do not want to be stuck on the same angle. Have you noticed, even with such a beautiful and stunning subject and such a half-decent counterpart, that your eye is starting to think, when's something going on? Come on, this is boring, this is boring. So I'm going to spice it up for you a little bit with a little bit of what's called B-roll. B-roll is what happens whenever something else is playing over the video that you're watching. So right now, you're going to have me talking, and Chris is still standing next to me, but what you should be seeing, I think, is some birds pecking at some birdseed. It has zero to do with what I am talking about. I'm talking to you about B-roll, which is the art of putting something else on top of the audio that is still playing underneath. But what it does is it gives the impression of something else happening. And it keeps your eye busy. You might be looking at a cat falling off a bookshelf while a guy's talking about making videos, or you might be talking about watching some birds eat some birdseed while a guy's talking about making videos or whatever. And it doesn't matter. The nice thing about B-roll is that it smudges over editing mistakes in your video while at the same time making it easy and engaging for your viewer to keep on watching. It's like magic. As soon as you introduce these things in there, what you're doing seems more professional, more vibrant, more put together. It is marvelous. The other thing about this is that means then you have to start editing these things into your videos. I'm certain that you have been using a video editor anyway whenever you're posting things up there, but if you haven't, or even if you have, you need to spend time getting familiar with these pieces of software. There's a few things I'm going to recommend while you're looking at this tree growing through a building, and you're welcome to pick any of these. They kind of go from simpler to more complex. But the first is Windows Photos. The app that comes on your Windows machine has a video editor in it. It's trickier for B-roll. You have to kind of send things out of Photos and then bring them back in later as an audio track, but it is possible to do, and Photos is free. It comes just as an app on your Windows PC. There is another thing that you can use on Windows, another app. It's called DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is like taking a howitzer out hunting. It is a serious, beefy piece of editing software that they use in legitimate Hollywood production studios, but it is also free. It costs you nothing to get started. It's lovely. It lets you do multi-track editing, so you can have a video of a dude talking while at the same time you've got a video of a cat falling off a bookshelf playing up above. If you're a Mac kind of person, you've got iMovie. That's whether you're working on your phone or on your MacBook. That option comes installed with those things. You can get it out there for free. It's very easy to use and to get started. You need to be doing those things a lot because you can take what's essentially a relatively boring video. Again, somebody beautiful and somebody not as much talking about making videos, and you can spice it up very easily. If you don't have access to that kind of trick, then, well, even if you do, you can use what are called second camera angles. You're going to get to see here when we switch to a second camera that, with almost no change at all, something totally different and magical is happening. We've got two cameras running in this place at the same time. They're both recording. And then all we have to do when we get back later, if we're editing, which today we're not, but if we're editing, we can switch something over to the second camera and switch back to the first. It's very simple. And you've seen this in every interview or documentary that you've ever taken part in, that you've ever watched. They regularly switch over the shoulder of one person, next to a second person, whatever. If you don't have a second camera, we just talked about budgeting and all that kind of stuff. It's still not a big deal. I can't show you here because of the way that we're doing this video recording, but you can very easily use your editing software to mirror the way that something appears, or to change something black and white, or to zoom in a little bit, or to spin and distort the video. If you'll sit down sometime with a teenager and watch YouTube for 10 minutes, you will see the thing chock full of all sorts of slick editing tricks that are just put in there to give your eye that appearance of change and to keep your brain engaged, even when there's not anything all that interesting happening at all.
Like now.
Like now. It's a super easy way to get things going, and it makes a huge difference in the professionalism and the quality output of the videos that you're making to add in B-roll and second camera angles.
Awesome. The other thing that really makes a huge difference in the quality of your videos is making sure your audience can actually hear them. This is often overlooked, especially if you wrote a script and you read it and so you know what all the words are. And it's pretty easy to just hear what you want to hear. In the same way, it's possible to just see what you want to see. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But your audio is both a really, really important factor in your video. And it turns out both easy and cheap to fix. So that's the good news. You do not need a $54,000 camera to fix your audio. In fact, to fix your audio, what you really need is one of these. I believe I picked this up for $12. It is not exactly a high-end microphone, right? But it is a lapel mic. If you look at Aaron, and if you can see very closely on your video, oh, I'm staring at it right now. I'll try to talk quieter. Okay. We are both wearing lapel mics right now. This is not a professional recording studio, right? We talked about that. This is a kitchen. There is a refrigerator right here. There is an ice maker there. There's a dishwasher. There's a coffee maker. It's really loud in here, actually. The audio in this room is basically terrible. And yet, I hope you can actually hear me perfectly without any problems. Zoom is doing noise reduction. It's doing active noise cancellation, and it's simply removing all of those. And noise reduction really relies on your signal, that is the thing you want to hear, being way, way high above the background noise. And the best way to do that is to get your microphone close to your source of sound. That is, in this case, my face, right? It's beautiful. It'd be better if it was Aaron's face, but it's not. It's my face, right? So this microphone is very, very close to my face. So I want to do a quick demonstration here of why that's so important. We're going to leave Zoom's noise cancellation on. So the background noise should basically still be getting disappeared magically by Zoom. I'm going to switch to the microphone that is on that camera. So this camera that I'm staring into right now has a microphone on it, and it is not a crappy microphone. It is not the piece of garbage that's built into an SLR. It's really a fairly nice shotgun microphone pointed straight at us. It gives good audio quality. But listen to what happens when I switch to it. I am now coming at you over the microphone on that camera. And the big problem with that microphone is instead of being 6 inches from my face, it's 6 feet from my face. And so you are getting all of the echo from this room, and it's a pretty echoey room. You're getting all kinds of artifacting because Zoom is desperately trying to cancel out the ice maker that's making a racket behind me, right? And it's having a much harder time doing that because the ice maker isn't that much farther from the camera than my face is. So my signal to noise ratio is much, much worse when I am on that microphone. So I'm going to stop making you suffer through that. And I'll come back at you from just our lapel mics. And we're wearing pretty nice lapel mics here. We're going through this fancy production switcher and all of that. But the great thing about this particular kind of lapel mic is it's designed to plug into your cell phone. If your cell phone still has an audio jack in it. Otherwise, you need that little dongle. Thanks, Apple. Although I think Samsung's doing the same thing now, right? At any rate, the really cool thing about these is what you can do is record your audio entirely separately from your video, and then you use your editor, like Aaron was talking about with the B-roll, you use your editor to combine the two together. If you're using something like DaVinci Resolve, there's even a button that just says Auto Sync Audio, and it takes the audio from your lapel mic and it eliminates the audio from your camera and replaces it. So it's really easy just using something like the Voice Memos app on your phone or something like that. Makes it super portable. You just pop your phone in your back pocket, you wire yourself up with one of these, and you are off to the races. You will get so much better audio if you can just get that microphone closer to your face. That is absolutely the key. Even if there are like birds chirping and lions roaring, and I don't know what happens at your library, but that's a common problem here at Norman Central. Yes. Is the lion pride. It's terrible. All right, or customers yelling outside the door of this studio space here. At any rate, getting that microphone super close to your face solves almost all your audio problems, including if you're outside, right? It can kill tons and tons of wind noise. You just make sure you got that little foam windscreen on there. You're going to get way better results. It's going to make your life much better. I promise. Do it.
A great example is Chris. He was teaching a class a few months back, and the library had to close of a sudden in the mornings, teaching a class online over Zoom. And so he had to run outside with his laptop and a microphone and teach his class sitting outside. The Norman Central Library is about 8 feet, probably literally about 200 feet from some train tracks. So of course, you'll never guess what happened on this Comedy of Errors morning. The train came right by as Chris is talking. His students could hear him. They could actually manage to hear because the lapel mic was close enough to his face to be able to filter out an actual train with an actual locomotion, and that.
No exaggeration. It's incredible.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is
do this thing.
Yeah, so we're believers in these guys. The fifth thing that we should talk to you about is who's on camera. This is a tricky subject, and it's a little bit delicate. It's sort of a tough dance as a manager to know how to answer this question. But just like you would with any kind of analog programming, you need to pay careful attention to who you're putting in front of the camera. Not everybody is suited for this kind of work. It's tough. I'm not sure that either of us are particularly suited for this kind of work. Like I said, we got shoved in front of it, but it's not everything's going to translate well online. Different people have different personalities that work in different situations, and they may not be the same people as your rock star programmers. We've seen examples of someone who designs the most beautiful programs in the world, somebody who offers marvelous, lovely story times that are packed to the brim every week, that whether it's because they lacked the chops to get the editing stuff done, some of the technical skills to make the videos right, or just their personality in front of a circular lens in front of a bunch of human beings, they come off different, flat, wooden on the camera. That doesn't mean that there's one kind of personality that works on these cameras. Some of the story times that we offer are from a gal who, her story times are very relaxed and very calm. They're very bedtime story time-y, and they're lovely. They get a lot of views. They're very popular. She's done a really good job of putting that kind of content out there with that kind of personality to it. You don't have to be dynamic, yelling, screaming, clapping, hollering, and in a lot of ways, that's pretty off-putting to be. But what it does mean is there are some people that react better to this environment than others. You do need to be sensitive to that, whether you're a manager or somebody that's just coordinating some content or somebody that's putting content out there yourself. There are other things that folks like that can do to be valued. So just because you're not the person that's going to be the on-air talent doesn't mean you don't need someone to run the camera. Doesn't mean you don't need someone to do the editing. Doesn't mean you don't need someone to work on the audio production. And that also doesn't mean that there's not other kinds of digital content they can't do. Maybe just like in analog world, they might not be great at doing story time, but they're lovely at doing laser tag for teens. It's the same thing here. Maybe they're not great at making videos, but maybe they make lovely graphics, or maybe they help people design good book talks, or maybe they're good at running a video game program online live with a bunch of kids. There's a million different ways to do this. And even though it is super important to be putting stuff in front of your community and making sure that they know you're doing your job and you're trying, it doesn't mean that everybody in your library needs to be tuned to this kind of thing. I will say, as a manager, it is difficult to make those choices because your staff also need to feel valued. And whenever somebody is putting creative work out there in the universe, on the one hand, you owe your customers and that person a clear and a cool enough eye to be able to say if something's working or not. But on the other, you have to be able to respect their output in a meaningful way. In some cases, and I don't have a magic solution for you here. I wish I did. I wish I'd had one for the whole rest of the last year. But in some cases, the appropriate thing is to love your staff and tell them this thing is beautiful and I cherish it and thank you for making it, even if it's not absolutely perfect. And sometimes the answer is to tell them, thank you so much for doing this. This is great. We're going to have to do something a little bit different. It takes such a great deal of courage for your staff to make these kinds of things and for someone to be willing to put it in the community that it takes some pretty complicated and adult gloves to make sure you handle it the right way. But that doesn't mean that you need to just take on everything. It is important to pay close attention to those kinds of things. I have a trick for that, and you can borrow them if you want. I have 2 children. They are ruthless commentators. And so if I'm looking at something and thinking, I don't know if this is going to work, I'm old, I don't know, but my children do. So I can just ask them, hey, come take a look at this. Tell me what you think. There's a simple trick to get them to like anything, which
you put them in the video. See, it's great. It's just bribery, right?
Yeah. So Chris may be the worst video maker in the world, but my kids give him
story.
5-star reviews because it has my kids in it. So if you need to borrow my children as reviewers or as cameos in your videos to make sure they pass muster, all you got to do is ask. My contact information will be at the end. It's a tricky dance. It's really tough, but it's worth remembering, just like you would with any kind of normal programming, this isn't for everyone. And you don't need to feel terrible about that being the case. Different people can have excellent value in different ways besides just being the anchor for the news show.
Right. And it is probably worth reiterating or making sure we say, when we talk about pick the right person, we're not talking about picking the most beautiful person, right? That's not where we're getting.
Yeah.
You wind up with me all the time, and even in a room of 2, right? Yeah. So that's not at all what we're getting at here. And so be careful that you're not doing that. You're looking at personalities and at staff development and that sort of thing. You're not looking at who's the best looking person at your branch. Here, it would be all Aaron all the time.
Yep, sorry.
All right. Thankfully, it's not all Aaron all the time because that sounds horrible. But speaking of Aaron being the most beautiful person in the branch, the next thing I want to talk about is lighting. And in doing that, what I'm going to do is ask Aaron to release the Kraken.
We'll do it.
And we'll do some demonstrations here of lighting. As I mentioned a couple of times early on, we have turned this particular room into an impromptu video studio. I've got lights everywhere in here, and that's a little bit like cheating. You probably don't have as many lights floating around as Norman Central does. We have this beautiful new building that has a visual lab in it, and so we've got a lot of this equipment. So I'm going to start by turning off a bunch of lights. I'm going to actually hand the audio off to Aaron, so I apologize. I'm going to take my microphone off in a second here, and you'll get some loud clicks as I bang it on the table and that sort of thing. But we're going to talk to you a little bit about how to do this sort of interior lighting on a fixed budget. And then I'll talk a little bit about how you can extend that to the idea of using natural light. So without further ado.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to mute us for just a second while he bangs around. Okay. What Chris is doing right now is he's moving in front of me. I'm going to turn on my Beyonce hair machine here for you. We've got a big rack of lights overhead as well as some lights in front. There's the ambient light throughout the room, and there's this fluorescent light behind me. He's turned off all the extra ones, so what you're getting right now is the ambient light from the rest of the room. what he's going to show you first is what it looks like when you have a light source right in front of your subject. There's one single light that is basically at 0 degrees from me, straight in front, right next to the camera. It's better than nothing. You can tell whenever the lights were off, things were dim, things were sort of weird and creepy looking. It's better to have something like this out there. But what this does is it's flat. It does pop me out from the rest of the background. But what you can also see is that there's no difference in the light from one side to the other of my face. The light is all hitting me at once. With one relatively simple change, you can get a much better appearance. He's going to move the light, something like 15 to 30 degrees off to my right. And now, all of a sudden, you can see the light looks so much better because he's created a gradient. On the right side of my face, there's quite a bit of light. Moves over to the left into a bunch of shadows. Looks a lot better this way, sort of a lot more natural, and it's a better setup to have for your film studio. So if you've only got one light, that's the way to go. Get that thing in front and a little bit off to the side. Now, he's going to turn on the overheads. You can see these guys pop up. Floods the area with light.
And I'll rejoin you. I hope I didn't just deafen anybody too much here, but let me talk to you just a little bit about if you have the ability to pick up some more lights. What you'd really, really like is you'd like 4 lights in addition to your room light. So what I've got is I've got light basically directly in front that's helping to light his eyes, because what you really want to be able to do is see these beautiful, beautiful eyes, their amazing gaze into them. All right. You want to be able to see them. You'd like to be able to see what color they are, right? It just helps you make a better connection with the human being if they don't have these deep recessed eye cavities here, right? That's not a flattering look. All right. Then I've got what are called high side lights. So this is providing my gradient. And in fact, I'm doing the gradient here with different colors. So I have a little bit warmer light coming from this direction than I do from this direction. So he's very evenly lit across his face. The gradient is being provided by having slightly different colors. This particular model of light, we've just picked them up. They're made by a company called Neewer, N-E-E-W-E-R. I don't really know actually how they pronounce that. Yeah, but at any rate, they're $75 or $80 a piece. So they are not outside the realm of library possibility, obviously coming at you from a library here. All right. So we've got several of those in front, lighting him from the front. And then we do have what's called a hair light. And that is, for obvious reasons, lighting Aaron's beautiful mane, his amazing hairdo here, blowing gracefully in the wind. It's spectacular, right? Round of applause, please. All right. So it is really called a hair light professionally. And the point of the hair light is to pop him out from the backdrop, particularly because I've got this brightly lit backdrop behind him. We really want to make sure that your presenter is being brought forward and is really catching your eye. And so the hair light just helps sort of give a little silhouette back there. So if you have the budget for it, you're looking at 4 lights there, a couple of high sides, a front light, and a backlight or a hair light here. It's a great lighting setup. There are all kinds of videos out there on different ways of tweaking this and configuring it. But at the end of the day, you buy those 4 lights, you put them in those 4 positions, and you're good to go. It's great. If you are shooting in natural light, and we do that a fair bit, I of course can't demonstrate that in here because, well, this is the kitchen. It's on the interior of the building. There are no windows in here. So I really can't show you what natural light is going to look like. But the key is to think about that very first demonstration where instead of putting the light coming straight at Aaron's face, we had it coming at a slight angle. So do not ever film with the windows behind you because that looks terrible. It's actually incredible, sort of from a cinematography standpoint. It's so easy to look at the lens of the camera and see what you want to see. And you say, oh, I see Aaron's face. It's delightful. I love seeing Aaron's face. And then someone else reviews the footage and they're like, where's Aaron's face? This is the best video ever. It doesn't have Aaron's face. They don't say that. I say that. All right, at any rate, you want to be able to see their face. And it's very easy to sort of watch the video and as the person making this, you see what you want to see instead of what's actually coming through the lens. And so you see their face, and the fact that there's bright windows behind you, you don't even notice it. This is how you get photobombed, right? Don't put windows behind you. Also, don't put them directly in front of you. Don't face straight into the windows. What you do is you put the windows a little bit off to the side. Then you get that gradient coming across. It works great if you also have overhead lights in your library. So if you got some light coming through the windows, not direct sunlight. You don't want direct sunlight. You want sort of either a cloudy day, or you want to do it when the light's not coming straight in those windows. All right, you'll overexpose otherwise. You get the light coming in over those windows. You've got fill light from the background. It actually works great. So you really can do a lot of video production without any lights at all, as long as you're not stuck doing your video production in a kitchen. If you're in a kitchen, you probably got to get some more lights.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. All right. So that's what I've got about lighting.
Great. That's 6 things. The last thing, maybe the most impactful and the most important thing you should know for the 7 most important things you need to do, or whatever we call it, to have the best videos ever, is use prime numbers. That's our presentation. Thank you guys so much for spending the time with us today. Really appreciate it. Again, my name's Aaron. This is Chris Hennis. You can reach us both at the Norman Public Library. You've got our email addresses there on the screen. If you need any help with your video production or choosing plaid shirts for work or anything like that, we're happy to answer any and all questions.
Yeah, we probably should have coordinated wardrobe today. We didn't, and this is what we wound up with.
Yeah.
We both wore our TV shirts.
Adulting is hard.
I was noticing that you guys look like you matched. I thought y'all.
Yeah, that was not on purpose.
It's really
Not on
bad.
purpose.
Sorry.
Well, your presentation was awesome. Thank you so much. I think it'll be one of the more entertaining sessions. So for beginners who are just getting started, what are some of your tricks for them? Do you have any videos that you recommend? Anything like that? Just like things to get started.
I think that depends a lot on what kind of content you want to make and how comfortable you personally are in front of a camera. The best way to get started is to make a video that doesn't actually involve a video camera at all, that gets you used to this idea of this is a visual medium, and maybe you just string together some PowerPoint slides, or you do a Prezi or a Canva or something like that. Make that sort of video so you get used to thinking graphically, thinking widescreen, thinking in that kind of format. So that's the first thing I would do. And the nice thing is it costs $0.
Yeah, the thing that got me going and sort of unlocked all the rest of the possibilities for me was editing stuff. The first thing I did that really got my brain sparkling about it was putting B-roll on top of some other video, just in part of a training. That's when I saw, oh my gosh, you can do this. This is possible to make good looking stuff. It's like Chris said, if you'll just get some kind of content for you to play with, whatever that content is, it can even be content just from other people, and then get into an editor and start working. You'll start to see how some of the possibilities work, and it'll start to unlock some of the other things. You'll start to see when you're editing, even if you're just editing something you recorded on your cell phone, oh my gosh, the audio is bad. That's how we need to go fix that. Or, wow, I wish I'd taken a video of this. I need to do that next time. It'll start to sort of unlock your creative juices to do those kinds of things. So just get started. Make something cheap and free. It doesn't have to be you on camera, and try editing it a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so you mentioned lighting. What are your thoughts on light rings? Yay, nay?
Light rings have a very particular use. So for those of you who aren't aware of what a light ring is, the idea is it's a ring of light that literally is by definition at 0 degrees. It is perfectly flat on. What light rings are great at is being your eye light. That is the light that makes sure that you can see deep into the person's eyes. You'd really like to actually be able to see straight into sort of the back of their eyes. That'd be delightful, but you probably need 4K video to really see that, right? Light rings are great as a second source or a third source. They are not a great first source. And this is almost your sort of local news effect. If you watch local newscasters running around, they've got those great big cameras and they have a single light mounted and it points straight at their subject and it looks like garbage. Now, it looks good enough to put on the local news, but the local news isn't trying to make a local man on the street look good. If he looks good, it's great. If he doesn't, it's less great, but it doesn't matter. That's not what they're going for. You have the capability, you have a little more control of doing a better job. So I would say light rings are great as secondary sources, is making sure you can see in the person's eye, but they're not good at providing that gradient across the face to give you sort of a pleasing visual image.
Awesome. Okay. And then last question I have. So what about for libraries who are on a pretty super strict budget? What are, you know, what should they invest in? What can they use what they already have?
I think so a little bit of that is in the slides. Like you can get some examples of cameras if you have something of a budget to get working with. If your budget is super strict, like one particular round digit strict, then the option that Chris brought up about cell phones is an excellent one. It is always a little bit tough using your own personal devices, especially asking your staff to use their own personal devices. But if you've got to get something out there and you literally have $0 to spend, your cell phone probably has an excellent camera on it. Most of the modern flagship cell phones have lovely hardware installed. That's really what they're fighting each other for competitively right now, is who can have the best camera, or in numerous cases, the best cameras on your phone. So what I would, if I were at a zero budget, you're going to want to shoot probably near natural light. You have this giant flaming ball in the sky that provides quite a bit of light for you to use, believe it or not. Be careful.
I can't see it today.
Be careful outdoors, because you don't want the wind to get in your microphone. And if you're using one cell phone, you've got a trick there of how do you get the microphone close enough, but the camera far enough to give you a good wide angle. Sometimes using two cell phones is a good idea. If you've got more than one staff member, that's a good way to handle it.
Or just very long cables.
Yes, if you have, again, this is a $0 budget. If you have a $12 budget, I would probably literally spend it on the microphone. Your audio quality makes an outstanding difference in the quality of your videos and what people are looking at. People are also willing to accept videos that aren't the most perfect thing in the world. Go on YouTube sometime and watch TikTok videos that people have put up there. The camera quality is not great. If my children, who apparently are the authorities on the subject, are any indication, you can spend entire days watching cameras wiggle around and having silly stuff on there. So your cell phone's a good option if you've got a $0 budget. If you have much of any budget at all, some of the options Chris listed are great. You can get out for probably what, $300? You can probably do pretty good.
Awesome. Okay, and where did you get that mic? Because I know people are going to ask.
Amazon. I mean, the trick with these is, I'm not even going to tell you what brand it is, because it just doesn't matter. It's probably the same microphone produced under 87 different brand names. Which one comes up as the cheap one today in your "let's give Jeff Bezos all our money" search? You know, whatever. I'm sure I picked this thing up on Amazon. If you would like to support your local Best Buy or whatever, you can also get them there. But the key is, you just don't have to go out and get your $200 microphones. The reason I didn't even demo this microphone today is you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference over Zoom between me using this and me using this. And this is actually a very nice microphone. You wouldn't be able to hear a difference. So a lot of times, for our purposes, we're not Hollywood. It just doesn't actually matter that much.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you both so much. This was an amazing presentation with a lot of great information. For those of you watching, don't forget to fill out your session evaluation, and we hope to see you at other sessions.